Hello everyone, this is Kristie. Welcome to Let's Talk Dollitics. I'm going to give you a brief explanation about this series. So, my channel is agtakesover. I typically bring you lighthearted content, anything related to American Girl dolls. Sometimes that's stuff I've bought for them, stuff I've made for them. Kind of chatty videos talking about what my goals are or how I talk to people, what life is like as an adult collector. Anything and everything showing you my doll spaces, how to organize them, how I budget for my dolls, different products that I find, dressing them, creating new and unique outfits for them, reviewing products that I come across. All of this stuff is generally, I'm going to say quality content and also pretty lighthearted. So when you're having a heavy day, it is a nice place to come and escape, right? And I want this channel to continue to be that for people who need that. And we all need that from time to time. However, the world is a very dark place right now, especially in the United States. So I noticed that my own fears and frustrations and the primacy of the world's events in my mind was showing up in my videos, which is fine. I worried that it was going to make it too unpredictable for you all to know, is Kristie putting out a video that is an escape or that's going to be a rough one? So I've come up with what I hope will be a nice solution for everyone. I usually do 2 videos a week. I'm going to stick with that posting schedule. That's the game plan anyway. And one will be my typical stuff. My views are evident, but they're not the center. It is much more doll-focused content. And then this new series, it's clearly labeled. It says, Let's Talk Dollitics. Watch it when you're in the headspace to watch it. And I do hope you will watch it because I'm going to follow a format that's really predictable and I think will help keep people from feeling quite so overwhelmed and hopeless and helpless. So basically 7 pieces to this. One is this intro. You're going to learn to skip ahead to the timestamp I'll put on the screen here. And so if you're watching this every single week, just skip. The first part is going to be recurring because I want to explain the series to people who might be watching for the first time. Second, an image or a quote that might be a little bit alarming or jarring, but that's going to serve as the intro to that particular week's topic. Third, some background information and updates about that particular topic. And I will try to include some additional reading or video links in the description, so be sure to always check there. Fourth, an inspiring or hopeful quote that is relevant to that week's topic. 5, some specific doable action steps related to the topic, and there should be enough of them that even though you can't do all of them, you should at least be able to pick one, hopefully multiple. 6th, some good news. Possibly not even related to the topic of that week. I just want to end on a note of not absolutely everything is awful. Even in the midst of really scary stuff, there are creative, kind, compassionate people doing just very cool things that we should know about and we should share about. And then 7th will be probably I will dress a doll each week, and at the end I'll just show you like, all right, here's what I put on my doll and here's why I picked it, and isn't she cute, and have a great week. I'll see you back for more Dollitics next week. Cool? All right, let's get started with the topic of this week. So today's topic is going to be loosely what to do in the event that you witness an ice raid. Just talking about ice raids and a lot of action steps for this one. And not an apology, but an explanation. I am dealing with a lot of drainage, so if I sound a little huskier, that's why. So here's the disturbing image to get us started. And I'm going to read, I will link the video of this in the description, but I'm just going to read the article that I found about this particular ICE detention. So at 9, oh, by the way, the computer's right here, so you're going to see a lot of looking over because I have copious notes. At 9 on the morning of May 2nd, 2025, a Florida Highway Patrol officer pulled over a van with 18-year-old U.S. citizen Kenny Lainez Ambrosio and 2 undocumented men in it. Lainez Ambrosio's mother was driving the men to their landscaping job. The patrol officer then called U.S. Border Patrol agents. Lainez Ambrosio recorded what happened next, which, by the way, is profiling to call Border Patrol just because they were brown. The video shows a female officer asking if anyone in the van is in the United States illegally. One man said he was undocumented, and then an officer responded, "Okay, let's go." An officer popped the door of the van open and grabbed the man by the neck in a chokehold. In the video, several officers pull the man from the van and tell him to put your effing head down. I'm censoring myself. You can hear Lainez Ambrosio telling his friend in Spanish not to resist. You can also hear him asking, "What are you doing? What are you guys doing? That's not how you do this. You don't have to do this to him." And the officers dropped the man to the ground with a stun gun. "You're funny, bro," one officer says to another, apparently the one who used the stun gun, and the officers laugh. Another says, "They're starting to resist more now," to which one officer replies, "We're going to end up shooting some of them." Later, the officers say, "God, woo, nice." Adding, "Just remember," so there's a part in the article that says this was inaudible. It says, "Just remember, you can smell that inaudible with $30,000 bonus." When I watched the video, I heard them talking about the person who had been stunned and saying that he smelled like shit, and then when I heard the comment that the article called inaudible, what I hear is, "Just remember, you can smell that too with a $30,000 bonus." Like I said, they had earlier talked about him smelling badly, so it sounds to me like you can smell that too with a $30,000 bonus. One of the officers explained the stun gun to two reporters. "He was being a dick. That's the one we tased." The officers arrested Lainez Ambrosio, a U.S. citizen, and held him for 6 hours in a cell at a Customs and Border Patrol station, then charged him with obstruction without violence. He was sentenced to 10 hours of community service and a 4-hour anger management course. The guy who was saying, "Hey, stop treating him like that. That's not how you do this. That's not how you're supposed to arrest him. Hey, don't resist, don't resist." That guy gets community service, arrested, and an anger management course. Not the one saying we're going to end up shooting him. Not the one celebrating and saying, "I can tolerate it for a $30,000 bonus." Not the one who gets his friend out of the car with a neck chokehold. Not the one who uses a stun gun when there was no threat to his safety. None of those people need an anger management course. The guy who was calling out the violence, the excessive use of force, that guy needs the anger management course. So this is just one example of the abuses of power, the harm first, ask questions later approach, the racism and the dehumanization involved with ICE stops, detentions, kidnappings. There are so many examples. I assume if you're watching this that you care and you disagree with what ICE is doing to people in this country. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you have already seen footage of more violent attacks than your heart can bear. Or maybe I'm wrong. But what I do know is that this is one of those situations where two things are simultaneously true. We do need to practice self-care and be mindful of the impacts of repeatedly seeing footage of state-sponsored violence. So if we're in a position to choose when and how much of that footage we see, it is okay to do so. The other truth is that we have an obligation to witness and acknowledge and respond to what is happening in our country, in our world. And that does mean, at least sometimes, facing heartbreaking videos of the folks who are supposed to serve and protect, showing us just how emotionally unstable, bloodthirsty, and cruel they often are in their attempts to protect property and status of the ruling class. For some viewers, that is a reality you've grown up with. For some of you, it's not. And if you have been socialized to believe that ICE or police, etc., people with a gun and a badge are the good guys, I'm going to specifically recommend the account Useless Cops. You can follow them on Instagram, Facebook, I think too, probably TikTok, I don't know, wherever, for at least a month. And just watch the footage that gets posted there, Useless Cops. See if it doesn't shatter some illusions. So either way, I am putting the footage of this incident, like I said, in the description. It is both horrible and important that we see what is going on around us. Now, it is a known fact that ICE and the bounty hunters and corrections officers contracting with them has been given a goal of 3,000 detentions per day. You can fact check me. That was tripled from 1,000 per day. If, and I don't know if it will, if that goal continues for a full year, we would be talking about 1,095,000 people plucked from our communities and thrown in detention centers or deported to countries they're not even from sometimes. I want to pause for a second and think about what happens when anyone is given a quota to fill their job, for their job. Like maybe you have been in a situation like that. Maybe you have known people who have quotas for their jobs. I've seen it, used car salesmen get pushier when they're trying to meet those numbers. Scientologists get shadier and shadier trying to sell all the courses that they were told that they have to sell within a month. Police officers are even more likely to manufacture a reason for a traffic stop in order to meet their citations quotas. So without a doubt in my mind, ICE agents are being more indiscriminate and more violent in order to meet these insane quotas. It's not like poor ICE agents, because my empathy is MIA for them. This is a job they're choosing. But it is a fact that the more intense these quotas are and the more unattainable they are, the more people are going to cut corners to fill those quotas, whether they're with legit detentions or not, whether they are giving due process or not, whether they're following the legal procedures or not. There have been so many documented examples of officers arresting people who are either citizens or in this country legally. And naturally, many of these folks resist in some way. Like, wouldn't you object to being shoved in a car by masked people who don't even identify themselves when you know you have every legal right to be in this country? So when it becomes evident that the person is, in fact, either a legal resident or a citizen, that charge falls off and they're able to keep the person detained on a charge of resisting arrest. So I can say, oh, I thought you were here illegally, and I arrest somebody who's naturally going to go, no, 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 no. That charge can stick. They were resisting. This is insane. It is horrifying. These agents are setting people up not in the name of safety, and certainly not in the name of what's best for our country's economy on the ground level, but because of quotas, racism, and the benefits, financial benefits of this scam for a few, right? There are people who are benefiting from it. Not the general economy, but there are some people, so that's why these arrests are happening. We also know, if we've been paying attention, that ICE's budget has been consistently on the rise since its creation in 2003. Maybe many of you don't know that. That's fine. I'm learning things as I go. So I linked a fact sheet about the history of ICE and Customs and Border Patrol funding spanning over 20 years. It's an 11-page read. It's real gross, but it will be an eye-opener for anyone who thinks that this is a new issue or that this is a party issue. Like, it's not a Republican issue. It's not a new issue. However, yes, the recent budget increase I just covered in last week's episode is beyond unprecedented. $170 billion for immigration enforcement in the United States. It surpasses the annual military budget of Iran, Turkey, Spain, Mexico, I believe Russia, and at least 23 countries in the top 40 military spenders. And that is according to Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. By 2028, this is important, you're talking about effectively spending 80% of all federal law enforcement dollars on immigration enforcement. So all the federal law enforcement dollars, 80% of them going to just immigration enforcement. Think about how we're prioritizing this type of enforcement over all
other types of crimes. Everything you can think of is being deprioritized to focus on detentions and deportations. And primarily, it's going to be deportations of people without any criminal record, without any arrest record. Meanwhile, Trump is like, I told Canada that, which very much wants to be part of our Golden Dome system, that it will cost them $61 billion if they want to remain a separate but unequal nation, but it will cost $0 if they become our cherished 51st state. They're considering the offer. We have also seen a massive jump in ICE salaries. For new agents, it's going from just under $50,000 to just under $90,000, and with substantial sign-on bonuses. And then for returning agents, a $50,000 sign-on bonus and a $100,000 and upwards salary has been offered. Again, I want to pause for you to think about the good being done to our communities by ICE, the qualifications of ICE agents, and the good that your local teachers and firefighters do, and the kind of pay that they receive, and who is footing the bill for all of these detentions. I do also want to talk about who's getting richer from all of this historical increase in ICE activity, but I'm going to save that for another week. Really focusing on like ICE raids and what you can do. So this week, I'm going to focus those action steps specifically on things you can do if you witness an ICE raid, and I have pulled together lots of really good resources. If you're watching, if this is the first episode you're watching of this, one of the things that I'm trying to do is keep us from being so overwhelmed. So I am trying to pull together the resources because I know that finding them is a lot of work, and things can just get overwhelming because there's a lot of bad news that doesn't always come with action steps. And I feel the heaviness of thanks for telling me everything's horrible, but not giving me anything I can do about it. And I don't want to be that. I want this to be something that balances the yuck with and immediately afterwards. So what can I do? So there are several apps and websites that allow people to report ICE sightings so that others can be alerted and stay safer. And I am going to mention those in just a bit. But 6 general tips if you witness an ICE raid are: 1, verify. If you think that you see ICE agents or vehicles, verify if there is an option or an operation underway. You need to assess if agents just happen to be in a certain place or if they are going to stage an operation to detain people. Don't report a raid to your local hotline until you have verified it. You don't need false reports all over the place. Do not report information about raids on social media without looking for verification. And if you find verification, look at the source of it. A raid can look like several vehicles parked haphazardly and agents setting up tents, or there are buses and vans nearby. It also looks like agents convening in a public area with a lot of foot traffic. It looks like agents approaching homes or actively approaching people and asking questions. So that's step 1, verify. After verifying, then what? Report to your local raids response network. If your state doesn't have one, some states are so big that they have, and this is such a problem that they have multiple, regional ones. California has regional. Ohio doesn't even have a state one. But there are still local, immigrant and refugee services organizations around the state, so I can reach out to them and see what do they have going on, and is that can I report to them? If not, there are national places that you can report to. There's a link in the description from the National Network for Immigrant and Refugee Rights to help you find the best number for your area and find the most appropriate ICE hotline number proactively and save it in your phone so that you're ready for this step should it ever come up in your life. Number 3, engage the people who are being approached. Tell them to remain silent and not answer any questions from the immigration agents. Tell people not to sign anything. There are so many reasons that this is important, one of which is a July 23rd Border Patrol directive pushing kids as young as 14 to choose deportation voluntarily by signing a document before they ever see a lawyer. Like in the field, they are giving people this. Like, this will just make things easier. They're 14 years old. They have no ability to comprehend the legal ramifications of signing that. So if you see someone being detained or being questioned, tell them not to sign anything. It is important for people to know that they should remain silent and sign nothing. You can yell this information out. Not all immigrants speak Spanish, but that does seem to be the primary target, Spanish-speaking immigrants. So don't say anything, can be said a lot of different ways. What I have noticed is that people putting these resources out are looking for the simplest way so that non-Spanish speakers can practice and memorize short phrases. So don't say anything. A very short way of saying that is no digas nada. No digas nada. You can practice it over and over. No digas nada. No digas nada. And don't sign anything. No firmes nada. Look, all you got to do is change one word. No firmes nada. And I got the phrases up here so you can see them. Try to get the attention of both the individuals who are being questioned or detained and the agents so people know that you are witnessing this. Film everything. That's number 4. Sometimes when you see these events, and if you've seen footage of them and you feel like everybody is filming and nobody is like stopping the situation, and is that really helpful? What I'm seeing over and over is, yes, it is helpful to film everything. You might have a slightly different angle than someone else. Obviously, if you're the only one around to film it, it's even more critical. But even if there are multiple people, you might get better footage than somebody. You might get the badge number of somebody. You might get information that somebody doesn't have that can be really helpful to making sure this person isn't just disappeared. All right, so film everything. One of the most important things you can do is record, and if you can, link it to the cloud as you go. You can look for tutorials if you're not sure how to do that. Get as much information as you can. The officer's name, badge, agency. You can study the patches of like Customs and Border Patrol, different police departments, ICE. You can just study those patches so that you're able to recognize them from a distance a little bit easier. But narrate the time, narrate the date and the location. You have the right to record their activity, regardless of what they tell you. You do have the right to record that. Number 5 is get information from the people or person being detained. Their date of birth, cuando naciste, if you're doing this in Spanish. Cuando naciste. Cuando naciste. And their full name. If you speak Spanish and you know nombre y apellido, great. If it's easier for you to say nombre completo instead of nombre y apellido, that's fine. Nombre y apellido, nombre completo. I think both would get you the same information. Reiterate that they should not be talking to the immigration officers and you are there to help. I have seen conflicting opinions about what information we should be asking from people because a lot of the agents also speak Spanish. So if somebody gives you this information, it is there for them to have as well. But getting their date and their name, date of birth and their name seems to be pretty consistent across different resources that I've checked. A lot of immigration advocacy networks are saying do this. So that's what I'm trying to follow. I also have seen some people suggest saying, who can I call for you? Like asking for a number of a family member, a family member or friend, somebody that I can call to let them know that you've been detained. That's a possibility. That's something you could ask. And then 6, once you have information and videos, you're going to call your local immigration rights group with that information. Reach out to them. Many people are, and I've seen plenty of videos, I don't know how much footage you watch of these things, but many people are choosing to use their privilege to slow down and stop raids. This obviously comes with risks to their safety. People have also been detained for engaging and doing what is viewed as obstructing ICE raids. People have blocked exits, protested raids, used their cars to physically block roads, used horns to cause chaos and interrupt raids. put their bodies between immigrants and agents, denied entry to private spaces, that they're absolutely allowed to do, played music and used noisemakers, etc. If those kinds of resistance activities interest you, please connect with your local community protection and immigrants' rights groups, as they are going to best know the particular needs and strategies that will serve folks in your community. This is not the time to, if you've never been involved in community activism and you're like, I want to do something, I'm going to throw a brick and I'm going to do whatever, and you don't check in with the people that this impacts, that's not super helpful. Like, ask them, how can I best serve? How can I best be of assistance? Because people on the ground who are directly impacted by this, there are always in every community people who've been doing this work longer than you have, I have, whatever. So check with those people, find those people and ask, what is it that you need me to do? What is it that is helpful? What is it that's not helpful? Right. Another way that you can be of help if you've seen an ICE raid is by reporting any unlawful activity on behalf of ICE or Customs and Border Patrol, etc., during an attempted or actual raid to icelist.is. Again, linked in the description. Don't worry. Of course, it's linked in the description. Look, if I'm doing my homework, I'm going to cite the sources so that you can have that information too. According to that site, icelist.is, the ICE List is an open journalistic project created by the Kristie Daily, aimed at collecting and sharing information that can hold ICE members legally accountable. So that's taken directly from their site. So it's an accountability initiative. If you see them doing something illegal or messed up, you can report it there, and they will work on, their volunteers will work on trying to do what they can to make sure that those ICE members are held accountable. Remember, without our consent, an unprecedented and appalling number of your tax dollars and my tax dollars are being used to pay violent thugs to do unlawful things like ignore due process, violate the Fourth Amendment rules surrounding illegal search and seizure, and racially profile. To do horrible things like separate families, use excessive force, cage people like animals, deny them adequate medical care and food, and humiliate and dehumanize them in detention centers. People are not defined by what they say or what they think, but by what they do. So if you think that that's horrible, that's a start. And if you tell others this is horrible and this is happening, that's a next step. But it is what you do about it that's going to matter most. And I think that a lot of times, I don't know that it's virtue signaling, but a lot of times people think it's good enough to denounce something. We're going to have to do more than that. What if you are looking for ways to help combat ICE raids outside of witnessing them and getting involved that way? Lots of options there too. Like I told you, I'm going to try to make sure that these action steps are a mix of levels of involvement, levels of risk, levels of financial commitment, etc., so that there's something for everybody. There is an organization of students, alumni, and lawyers at the University of Southern California called Agents of Change. And they launched a hotline where immigrants with upcoming court dates, like in-person court hearings, can reach out and request that the group ask for their hearing to be changed to virtual. Because if you've been paying attention to this, ICE agents are showing up. People are literally going to court, going to their ICE hearings, or their immigration hearings, like going to do all the things the way they're supposed to do. They walk out of there with whatever their next step is, and they're like, I am trying to work through this legal system. And then they get snatched. And judges have told the ICE agents, you are not allowed to, and they've done it anyway. So a lot of people are afraid, and they're not going to their hearings because they don't want to get abducted in the courthouse. But then that hurts their case because they needed to show up to the hearing. So this group is saying, reach out to us. We can't guarantee the judge will grant it, but we can ask, most of you are navigating this system without the help of a lawyer because lawyers are expensive. We will volunteer our time to submit the requests. And they're in California, but they said that this is open to anybody in the nation. I would imagine that they might be getting inundated. So reaching out and saying, do you need any financial support for this to continue and be sustainable? I don't know. Maybe you know people with the skills in the background to do something similar, and that's how you help. Like, reach out to them and say, hey, I know some folks who might be able to help with this. How do they hook up with you? Or maybe, like I said, reach out and donate to them, and that's how you help. Maybe you simply spread the word that this is an option that exists, and their hotline, 888 462-5211, is something that you can share with people. There are also various national attempts to track ICE raids, and you can check them out yourself. Spread the word about them. Donate to help keep them operational. People Over Papers and stopice.net are both worth familiarizing yourself with, and I've linked them in the description, of course. Maybe you don't know of a single raid that's happened in your area. It could be that they are happening in your area and you're just not aware, and using one of these apps would let you know. For example, I hadn't seen anything come through on stopice.net for my area of Ohio, and then I checked out People Over Papers the other day, and in one day there were 2 raids or 2 detentions that were near me. And I did, from reading the reports, I don't know if they detained anyone, but they were like probable ICE detention attempts going on. So maybe they are happening and you're just not aware. Or it could be that they aren't happening yet in your area yet. Either way, being prepared starts with getting better informed. So looking for immigrant advocacy groups in your area and familiarizing yourself with the various national raid reporting sites is important. Any site that does this should be totally transparent about how that data is collected, whether your data is gathered or saved, etc. If they're not, I would be hesitant. So basically, they should be transparent about how they're able to do what they do, and if they're not, personally, that would be concerning to me. If you are satisfied with the transparency of initiatives like People Over Papers and stopice.net, then you can further support them by asking if they need donations and spreading word about their work. Another cool initiative that you could contribute to is Abide in Love. This is a group of women that puts money directly on the books of detainees in their community, so that they're able to make phone calls to family and to their family members, because they're not allowed to do that for free, obviously. So this benefits folks being detained specifically at the Phelps County Jail in Rolla, Missouri. You can learn more about the project and how to donate by clicking on the link in the description, but maybe this can be an initiative that spreads to other areas to help folks in other facilities. Also, maybe it serves as inspiration for the creative ways that each of us can find something we can do to contribute. Next on my list is an organization specific to North Carolina, but I'm sharing it because they're doing some really cool stuff. It's Siembra NC, Siembra, North Carolina. It is educating. It's an organization that does a whole lot of stuff. But the things that caught my eye regarding this week's topic were they've been educating North Carolina businesses about their rights to stop ICE from coming into their business. So they talk about like the line between the publicly accessible parts of your business, like a restaurant's dining room, and the private parts of your business, like the kitchen, and why it's important to understand the difference between the two, and that having a locking door to separate those two places can be crucial. Knowing your rights as a business owner matters. Educating your employees on protocols and their rights matters. Increasingly, ICE is going into businesses and rounding up everybody in the kitchen at a restaurant. And sometimes you see, like, if they had a locking door and said, everybody back in the kitchen, lock the door, that's a private space. And then when an immigration comes in, if that person had been educated on their rights and said, you are in the public part of my business, you have no legal right to go into the private part of my business, right? They do in-person training, Siembra NC. They do in-person trainings with role play, and they've got some cool testimonials of people saying, this was really cool because it's one thing to mentally rehearse it. It's quite another to have people like in your space trying to intimidate you, and you have to stand your ground and assert your legal rights. So that's really cool. If you live in North Carolina, you can promote this organization. If you know people in North Carolina who own businesses, you can reach out to them and say, hey, why don't you get connected with this organization and get a training for your business. They have a defense hotline that folks can save on their phones to report ICE activity. And if a business does that training, then they become a Fourth Amendment workplace. Like they do the training and they get a certificate or something that they display. And I think it's a really cool initiative. If you don't live in North Carolina, they have a website full of great information and a toolkit so that businesses can protect their employees. So you don't get the in-person role play, but you get all the other information. It is fourthworkplace.org, the number 4. It's in the description. Fourthworkplace.org. All right, I'm going to stick this segment right in the middle somewhere because I found more action steps. Yes. Also, I am feeling so much better. I'm recording this a couple days after the fact, and it's the best I've felt in like 3 days. Still have drainage, still have sore throat, but my body doesn't hurt, and I can breathe through my nose. So I even put on makeup, and I even put on lip color, which I don't like, and I'm not sure that I like this color on me, but what can I say? The color got me. This is the brand if you want to know. I'm not promoting it. I'm not a real big fan of it actually, but I just was tickled. My wife bought it a few years ago and I was like, oh yeah, there's that. That's hilarious. All right, so some additional action steps. Protests, they still matter. Protests have always mattered. They always will matter. If anybody tries to make you feel like that's not true, don't let them rain on your parade. Every single act of resistance helps. Protests absolutely matter. Protests look like all different kinds of things, and they all matter. If you can't attend a protest, but you can, especially in these summer months, donate some water, drive by and honk in support, drive other people who might need a ride, promote a protest, raise awareness about it. Anything that you can do helps. 5 Calls app, I'm probably going to say this every single week, but I say it quickly, so bear with me. You can go to 5calls.org or you can go on an app store and download it. All you do is put in your zip code and it will, based on that, tell you who your 2 U.S. senators are and who your United States representative is for your state. And then it will give you a list of varying types of topics, but typically like what people would at least consider progressive. So they do have things about call these representatives and urge them to denounce the escalation of ICE raids, to not cooperate with federal ICE raids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So lots of topics about this that you can call your representatives. You can read their talking points and go off script, or you can just follow the script. And if you want to talk to people, you're probably not going to no matter when you call, but you have a better shot if you call during the day. If you don't want to talk to a live person and you just want to leave a message, because I know my reps and my senator, and so I just call at night and I leave my messages, and it's faster for me to get through the calls, but it will track them. So I highly, highly, highly recommend this. You can make 5 calls a day in about 5 minutes, and it is something that like every single night you can go to bed knowing you at least did one thing to try to move this country in a better direction. The other reason that I'm bringing up 5 calls again, so this is kind of a twofer, is they have these posters that you can print out for free that have little tear tabs at the bottom of them. You can put these up in libraries, in grocery stores, anywhere that has a bulletin board that's open to the public. And it has a QR code, so people can just scan that, or they can tear off the information at the bottom. Love this. There's a way to promote it. You can, they also have cards that you can print and give out to people. So I think at least twice when I've been at protests, people have been going out and like walking around to all the protesters and saying, have you heard of 5 calls? And if not, then they have the card ready to go. They also have shirts that you can buy. So, it'll promote 5 calls to every single person you walk by. You pay for it once, and then it's endless free advertising for the cause. So yes, yes. Next one, speaking of shirts, I maintain that shirts, bumper stickers, yard flags, and the like are action steps and can make a difference. And I know that that is like the lowest hanging fruit. They're not enough. Obviously, we need to do more than just put a shirt on, but they do serve a function. Like they serve a few functions. They can start conversations. They can show solidarity to people who very much may need the reminder that they are not alone. The first time we went to a protest in my town, I cried because I really, really needed, sorry, my computer's giving me an announcement. I really needed to know that we weren't alone in this red county, right? It mattered to know that I wasn't alone in my feelings in my community. I think that that is very powerful. They also remind people who do support the unconscionable ICE raids, detentions, deportations, and abuses that not all your neighbors agree with you. So yeah, buy a shirt or make a shirt, buy a flag for your yard or make a flag, buy a button or make a button or a bumper sticker, but make your voice and your compassion a physical presence in your community. That's an action step. Online trainings. I have recently signed up for a couple through Indivisible. I missed the first one I signed up for because I felt like absolute garbage and was like, you know what? They said they're running these every couple of weeks. I'm just going to sign up for the next one because I can't make it. I mean, it was online, but I was like, I can't keep my eyes open and breathe. So yeah, I'm putting a couple just splashes up here so you can see, but some of them are at the national level, some of them are at the state level, but check out the online trainings that Indivisible is offering. They are free. They're going to connect you with like-minded people. They're going to give you action steps and insights, and they're going to remind you that you are part of something bigger, a bigger plan, a bigger community, a bigger resistance. And we need that, right? I don't really see a downside to them, and you can promote them to others. So that's actually a twofer, 2 action steps in one. All right. Also, there's an action step that not a ton of us are going to be able to do, but I'm going to share it anyway because 1, some of you may be able to do it, and 2, others can at least promote this and take inspiration from it. So I mentioned earlier that Agents of Change in California has a hotline where immigrants who have an in-person court appearance can call and say, hey, can you request them to change this to virtual, right? And we talked about how that's important because fear of detention is keeping people from going to their in-person hearings, right? And then now they're not compliant and they're more likely to be detained, like legitimately. Well, fear of detention in doctors' offices and hospitals, because yes, that shit is happening and it's abhorrent. The videos are heartbreaking, is keeping people from getting needed medical care, from going in to get visits that will allow them to get their prescriptions reauthorized, and get needed testing, needed follow-ups, etc. And I recently saw a video of a doctor who is committing to making virtual appointments accessible and available to immigrants for $1. Her name is Jessica Kiss. Her social media stuff is Ask Dr. Mom. I don't know much about her at all. This is the first time I'd ever seen her, so I don't know. But she has asked other medical providers who have the ability to do telemedicine visits to reach out to her to build the network of folks who are willing to offer something like this. I am no doctor, obviously. I know there are rules about treating patients across state lines in some cases, and I don't know how much of that has to do with your license versus insurance, etc. So I am not your girl for those details. But if you are interested in learning more, you can reach out to her. Her video is linked in the description, of course. And I share this step in case you happen to be or know a doctor interested in getting involved, but also because it might get you thinking about the kind of skills and things that you know how to do well. There are a lot of things that a large demographic of our community, of our society, is not doing right now out of fear of detention. So are there ways that your resources or skills can bridge some gaps? Maybe just spend a few minutes thinking about that. And if you come up with some ideas, share them in the comments. All right. Another one, boycotts. I think this is the last one before I go back to, the pre-recorded stuff. Boycotts. There are a lot of companies profiting off of this massive increase in anti-immigration activity and efforts. Some of them are not very customer facing, so you and I are not already, we're already not giving them our dollars. I mean, willingly anyway. If our tax dollars are being funneled to them in the form of contracts, we can't help that at this point, but we're not giving them directly our money. We will cover those companies in a separate video. But some of them are household names and companies that you might well be financially supporting. So I'm sure that this is a partial list, but it's the one that I came across the other day and wanted to go ahead and share it with you. Before I mention the companies, a word about boycotts. First, they are effective. That there is plenty of evidence. If a company's leaders show you that they lack a moral compass and that they worship profit margins, then hitting them in their wallet is simply speaking to them in a language they understand. It does make a difference. Second, they are often inconvenient for us participating in boycotts. Usually not as inconvenient as we might initially expect, but they do require a change, and change is not always convenient. One of the companies that I'm about to mention may mean that I have to change banks, or not have to, but that I end up choosing to change banks. And that is, initially at least, going to be a pain in my ass. But I also might end up getting a high yield savings account somewhere else because my bank is not doing me any favors. I've only stayed there out of habit. Third, a partial boycott is less effective than a full boycott, but more effective than no boycott. I know that sounds really, really obvious, but sometimes we live in a society that sends a message that it's all or nothing, that if you can't commit 100%, you might as well not be doing anything. And I don't think that is productive. Would I love for everybody to be able to go pedal to the metal with every important thing in life? Yes. Do I think that's realistic? No. Do I find it helpful to shame people into inaction just because they can't take the actions that I wish they could? No. So, if it doesn't feel feasible to fully withdraw your spending with a certain company, reducing it still helps. Like in my family, I estimate that in 2025, we have reduced our Amazon spending by at least 90%. It hasn't been a full boycott, but it has been darn near close. And I know that 90%, I know that 100% is better, but that 90% reduction helps. Like that is a fact. So yeah, this space is less about judging you for not being a perfect boycotter and more about encouraging you to make as much impact as you can with your spending decisions. Now, which ICE supporting companies can we keep our money away from? Enterprise has been renting vans to ICE. Hilton and Marriott have been providing hotels to them. U.S. Bank has been providing them prepaid debit cards. Arco AMPM, which is owned by BP, but in Southern California is known as AMPM or Arco. So BP has the largest contract with the Defense Logistics Academy, DLA, to support ICE by providing critical resources like fuel and fuel supplies. So we will gas those vehicles up for you. We will keep you on the road. We will keep you in action. They have a contract for over $556 million with the Defense Logistics Academy for this purpose. That's linked in the description. Other gasoline companies that did bid and won contracts with the DLA to support ICE include Chevron, Valero, Marathon, Petrostar, Sinclair, and Phillips 66. Some of those other ones I haven't heard of, but they could be regional. In general, I honestly can't think of a petrol company that anybody would point to and say, now there's a model corporate citizen. And I know we have to buy gas, but spending it somewhere other than BP and their subsidiaries is maybe a good start. Raising awareness about how these particular gas companies are profiting from and supporting ICE raids, breaking up families, human rights violations, ignoring habeas corpus, disregarding due process, illegal search and seizure, et cetera, right? They're profiting from all of that. They're supporting all of that. So spreading the word and going, if you can spend your dollars elsewhere, if you can fill up elsewhere, that would be great. Good. That would be a helpful step. Boycottice.com is had some more information about this, so I've linked them in the description as well. Okay, so, and I know I'm going to go back to the other video and continue with more steps, but just so you know, I counted, and this video has like 19 or 20 easily action steps. Maybe the most action step packed video I've done so far. All right, carrying on. And then the last on my list are the red cards or the Know Your Rights cards you can pass out to people. I mentioned these, I believe, on the very first episode of this series, but I'm going to link them again in the description. They're cards that come from the Immigration Legal Resource Center, and they let people know what their rights are regarding ICE activity. They are available. They've had volunteers translating them into more languages, so I think they're up to like 39 languages. You can print them out yourself or you can order them. And just keep a stack with you. You never know how this could help someone. You can leave them in places where you think immigrants are likely to be. If you're like, Kristie, honestly, I don't just like have a network of friends who are immigrants. Like, that's just not something I have. Okay, well, where do you think they'd be? Just keep them with you. Just keep them with you because you never know when you could need them. Just keep them with you like you do your driver's license, right? Especially as things continue to escalate, and especially with the insane influx of cash for this manhunt, we're going to see more of it. We're going to see more of it. So if you haven't yet, and it's only been something that you see on videos, or you haven't even been watching the videos, start watching the videos so you know what to expect. Take breaks when you need to, but you need to see things to know what's coming. You need to start right now getting aware of the resources and mentally rehearsing what are things that are within your power to do, whether that's donations, whether that is information sharing and education, whether that is more direct involvement in documentation or disruption or whatever. Hopefully you've gotten lots and lots and lots of strategies, and hopefully you can use at least a few of them. Next, and here is a positive to end on. I love this. It's somebody's protest sign. I just love the reminder that, it's the power of the people is greater than the people in power in like a visual format. And we need that. We need to remind ourselves of that on a daily basis. Okay, now, good news coming up. All right, for good news this time, I did not go to Sam Bentley's account. I went to Good Co. I just typed in good news accounts Instagram, and I got a list of like, here are the best good news accounts. And bonus here, as an action step for your sanity, follow some good news accounts. Some of them are still very much political, but they are celebrating every win, everything that the Trump administration tries to do and fails at and doesn't get away with and tries to withhold this funding, and a judge says, you have to give it. or tries to force this city to do something and a judge goes, you don't have that authority, those kinds of things. But also just sustainable living, kindness, just cool things, innovation. And like I will say every week, they're always happening. They are always happening. They're amazing people with good goals and visions and dreams to make the world a better place. They are always hard at work, and we should make sure that we seek them out and we read about their work as well, so we can promote it and we can remind ourselves that it is not all a sinking lost cause. So I'm going to read over here because this one is several slides, but and I will link it, of course. But it says, good news, Denver is finishing construction on the world's largest wildlife overpass. And the picture is like a regular tunnel, like an overpass that we drive by all the time. But it's like the land is being built up and this part is extra wide so that it's like, you know, animals can just go across. It says the $15 million project hopes to keep both animals and drivers safer on the highway. The crossing is expected to reduce vehicle-animal collisions along this corridor by 90%, according to the Colorado Department of Transportation. Denver's wildlife overpass will sit at a hot spot for migrating elk. If you were wondering, like, how do you decide where? Okay, so migrating elk, mule deer, and other large game, typically we're crossing in this area. The overpass will span 209 feet across 6 lanes of traffic and measure 200 feet wide, connecting 39,000 acres of big game habitat to more than 1 million of acres of the Pike National Forest. So like they live here, here's the national forest, they migrate on a regular basis, give them some way where they're not trying to cross the highway to do so. Makes sense to me. And then there are some conceptual renderings. This will be good to see, so make sure you check it out in the link. And then it says follow good co for more good news. So yeah. Does anybody live in Denver or live near enough Denver that you'll get to see this? I think that's cool. All right, next, I got to go upstairs and grab the doll, but I've already dressed Latia. So 1 second. I might have overestimated how much I've recovered because my throat is so dry. All right, this is what she was wearing. She looks super cute. She is a Just Like You 11. I did an unboxing of her and was like, because I spent about 2.5 years wanting her and just waiting and looking for the right one and hoping that I would luck out and get one out of steel, which I did not, but I got a great one. Got the one that was meant for me. And now she's wearing this fun outfit. I just grabbed some things from Courtney's bin. Her hair is so soft. It's in such good condition. So yeah, everything she's wearing is from Courtney's collection. This says Move It Girl, and I don't know if any of you remember Get in Shape Girl. It was like a video series with this little dumbbell tree, and it had like stretchy bands and all this different stuff, but there was a little jingle to it that I can still hear. It was like, get in shape, girl. Da, 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 da. I don't remember the rest of it, but yeah, so I had a Get in Shape Girl set when I was a kid, which is like, it's real gross, right? Like, it's real sexist. It's real, like, it would be one thing if there were an equivalent for boy children, but there was not. So that part of it is real sexist, but nothing wrong with encouraging kids, regardless of gender, to get active. Yeah, so anyway, she looks like she's ready for Get in Shape Girl. Do 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 do. Don't mind me, just over here keeping my sanity by playing with my dolls. That's it. That's the video. Thank you so much for your attention. Please share this. These videos get like next to no views compared to my other videos, and I'm not whining. I'm just pointing it out. These videos are more important. Technically, right? So if you think that they're of value, then please keep coming back for them. comment to feed the algorithm. That's how we tell the algorithm to put this video in front of more eyes. So comment, longer comments equal more engagement. So if you want to ramble, go for it. And I will be back. Basically what I've been doing is like midweek is the doll centric video, usually Thursdays. And then weekend, usually Sundays, is the Dollitics video. So that's the format. Please keep coming back for all the content if you're interested in all of it, and promote what you like. Thanks.